Hello, my name's John Amos. I'm Head of the Strategy Group and Professor of Strategic Management and Organisation at the University of Edinburgh Business School. I'm also an Associate Editor at AMR. And what I'm going to talk about for the next few minutes is what separates AMR from other journals, and then how do we know if we've made a novel, significant theoretical contribution. That's perhaps the hardest thing we do as authors. Let's start with the first part. What separates AMR from other journals? Well, as you probably know, AMR is a conceptual journal. That means that we don't accept papers with empirics or data. Those will be desk rejected, no matter how strong your theoretical contribution. We love examples, we love illustrations, but if you've got an empirical paper that relies on data, you should try our sister journals, Academy of Management Journal or Academy of Management Discoveries. Second, we're looking for papers that challenge conventional wisdom about management, organisations, and the role of organisations in society. So we're looking for those papers that significantly shift how we think about management, organisations, and organising. In other words, we want ideas that are novel, bold, and will extend current theory in new directions. Incremental advances that really don't move the needle are unlikely to get accepted in AMR. Despite the name of the journal, we don't publish review papers. For that, go to the annals. So I've said what we are and what we are not, but what about the theory that we publish? And then how can we think about what constitutes a novel theoretical contribution? Well, there's four main ways to craft a theoretical contribution, at least based on what we've discovered at AMR. First of all, you could develop new theory, perhaps in light of a new phenomenon such as artificial intelligence, or recent developments in other literatures that allow us to understand current concepts in new ways. From there, we can develop new theoretical inferences. Or you might be able to identify or delineate a novel theoretical problem and show how addressing that problem advances our understanding of management and organisation. Secondly, you could offer a significant challenge to current theory, show how existing theory is limited or bounded in some way, and thus how you could extend it. Third, you could synthesise recent ideas into fresh theory, combine new insights to provide a new way of theorising. Those are the three main ways that we find that theory gets developed within AMR. There's a fourth way, and that's papers that suggest ways to improve theory development. Anne Langley's 1999 AMR paper on process theorising is an excellent example of that. There are various ways of going about this, of course, and lots of resources on the AMR site that I encourage you to go and look at. Have a look under the Authors Contributors tab. The 1989 volume, which is volume 14, the fourth issue of that year, offers some really wonderful and timeless essays that offer excellent guidance on theorising, so I encourage you to have a look at those. More recently, Yupka Nellison's 2017 essay offers guidance on theorising using a propositional, narrative or typological approach. So again, a really useful essay to have a look at when you're figuring out how to craft the theoretical contribution that you're thinking about making. So as you will see, there's no single way to approach theorising, but there are perhaps more informed approaches. With that said, how do you know when you've made a theoretical contribution, that holy grail of our work? I think an important starting point for this is the preparation that you put in before you actually start to write. And there are two key components for this, I think. First of all, read the journal, read AMR. Look at recent papers and consider what other authors are positioning as novel theoretical contributions. What language is used? How are the papers structured? How is the logic of the arguments developed? In addition to better understanding how to structure your paper, this will also give you a good idea of what is required to claim a theoretical contribution. As you're going through this, also note down those papers that seem to see the world in the same way that you do, that are structured in a way that you can relate to, because these might be useful templates that you can use for your own work. Second, think about what constitutes a significant theoretical problem that will be of interest to the AMR readership. My point here is that you cannot make a significant theoretical contribution unless you are addressing a significant theoretical problem. So what is the problem? What is the puzzle that you are trying to address? There are two main ways of doing this, I think. First of all, look at ongoing debates in the management literature. Are there disagreements about fundamental theoretical issues? If so, are you able to contribute to this debate by developing new theoretical insights? A paper that I published in 2004 with Bob Heining's and Trevor Slack really adopted this approach where we looked at the pacing and sequencing of change. And that was grounded in the fact that within the literature, there was disagreements as to whether fast-paced change or slower-paced change was more effective, and whether you should change those parts of the organisation that are central, high-impact elements that we talked about, or if you should change more peripheral elements first to generate momentum. As a consequence of these discussions, we felt that we were able to contribute theory in these areas. The other approach is to look at the world around you, and particularly the empirical context that you find interesting. Is there something that you observe that theory would suggest should not occur or cannot adequately explain? Maria Gondo and I used this approach for our 2014 AMR paper. We were inspired by the empirical observations that we were making about the way innovations were developed in a large tech company. These observations allowed us to develop new theoretical insights into how new practices are adopted. If in either of these cases you hit upon a significant theoretical issue, you're likely on the right track. Conversely, as I mentioned previously, it's almost impossible to make a strong theoretical contribution to an issue that's marginal or unimportant or not particularly interesting to those people in the field. The next point that I feel is important in determining whether you're on your way to making a theoretical contribution involves thinking about the research problem or the question that you're seeking to address. As you do so, I urge you to consider why something happened and or how it happened. Why or how? Why and how questions are usually central to uncovering theoretical inferences and mechanisms. Questions of who, what, where and when can be very important in establishing scope conditions and putting flesh onto your theoretical bones. But it's usually why and how questions that lead to the more significant theoretical revelations. So if you have a why or a how question, that again is a useful indicator that you're perhaps on the right track towards generating a significant theoretical contribution. Next, write down some bullet points that outline the logic of your theoretical arguments. Of course, at this stage, these are going to be rough, ill-formed, and are almost certainly going to change over time. Don't worry about that. Getting them down on paper is the crucial thing. Once you're able to do that, you'll figure out the arguments as you go along, and that again will help you determine if you're making a worthwhile theoretical contribution. Construct a diagram that explains your emergent theoretical understandings. Use boxes for concepts that are linked with arrows. It's the arrows that are likely to constitute the key theoretical linkages. Again, don't worry about refining this too much. You're not looking for perfection here, but what you are trying to do is scope out your theory. Then share your ideas with one or two trusted colleagues, perhaps a supervisor or somebody who you work with. Get feedback on whether this constitutes a substantive theoretical issue, and also is the logic of the arguments and relationships apparent and compelling. Then revise your theorizing. Take that feedback on board. Read further. Revise some more. Get further feedback, perhaps a brown bag seminar in a departmental seminar series, or from further discussions with colleagues. When those who you trust feel that you've identified a significant theoretical issue and that your arguments are making sense, then you know that you're on the right track towards making a substantive theoretical contribution, and you can really start then to formulate your paper. Have a read of Thatcher and Fisher's recent 2022 editorial for gaining an overview of the components of an AMR paper and how to go about constructing it. They've got some really useful exercises in there that will help you. But in the first instance, I would encourage you to write a maximum 2-page introduction. This is a part of the paper that you'll write again and again and again. It will likely change more than any other part. But doing it now helps you to stress test the worth of the contribution that you're making. Before you do this, you might want to read Barney's 2018 and Lang and Farrer's 2017 editorials. They offer terrific insights into how to set up the hook for your paper. If you can develop a working introduction at this stage, you can again share it with interested parties and hopefully get the feedback that you are well on the way to making a significant and novel theoretical contribution. So to writing a full draft, I'm not going to say much about that, but I do feel that an important aspect in knowing if you are making a strong theoretical contribution is if you can demonstrate how you are extending the work of others and hence the knowledge base. A discussion section is often a good place for this. Be very explicit in stating your contributions and showing how they move us forward. This is perhaps the final key piece in knowing if you are making a strong, novel theoretical contribution. Good luck with your work.